Welcome to the Dana Grant Show, where heart-centered stories, authentic connections, real talk, and real action come together. I'm your host, Dana Grant, and I believe in the boundless potential within each of us. Join me as we dive into transformative conversations that not only inspire growth, but compassion with a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Let's embark on this journey together, unlocking all the power within and creating a life of purpose and fulfillment. This is the Dana Grant Show, where your story matters and your voice is heard, and I cannot wait to dive in. Okay, welcome to another episode of the Dana Grant Show. And today I have Brett McDermott here with me. And you know what? I wrote you down as a charisma hacker, and I can't wait to dive in today into this heart-centered action that you are. I see you're devoted to it.
For sure, 100%. I really believe that it is a tool that we should all work on honing, not just today, but throughout our lives. I just think communication skills, the ability to connect with others is just so pivotal, regardless of what your mission is. And you can have any mission in the world, but if you don't have the ability to communicate that mission, to get others to jump on board with your word, then you're not really going to get too far. So I really do think that we all have an innate charisma deep down inside of us. And there's just certain tools that we can activate that allow us to bring that charisma to the surface.
You know, Brett, we dove right in without even introducing. I mean, you don't have a website. You started this podcast show that
Mhm.
you wanted to share your message with. So let me ask my first question that I didn't write down, but I really want to lean in, and I want to
Sure.
know, what is your definition of charisma, and how can we use it to support our mission in the world?
Yeah. So to me, charisma has three pillars, right? And I think you've kind of got to hit on all three to truly be
Mm,
charismatic. And I think that first pillar is power, right? You have got to display power to the world around you. When people meet you, they've got to think that, you're someone that could possibly move mountains, someone that could help them if they needed help, right? So you've got to display that power, but you've also got to display warmth. It's not just about being a powerful person, but it's about showing people that you want to use that power for good. You want to use that power to help them. And then I think the third pillar is presence, right? You've got power and then you've got warmth. But if you're not present, if you're not truly living in that moment with the people that you're with,
right.
then you're just not going to rise up to your level of charisma that you are capable of. So to me, I think it is. I think it's three pillars, and we can dive into all of those throughout the conversation. But I think it's the ability to have internally and then present to the world power, warmth, and presence.
So that definition, to me, when I heard that, I digested that as, that's the energy of how we show up. So is that anchored into our integrity? Because I would think those things are innate within us, or can they be cultivated?
So I'd certainly think that there is an innate nature to our charisma. Some of us, of course, start at a higher level than others. I think based on our conditioning and our upbringing, if we had charismatic parents, then we're probably a little bit more likely to start with a baseline level of magnetism that perhaps
Mm,
others might not have if they didn't come from that type of upbringing. Of
right.
course, I think it is, based in integrity, especially the warmth portion of the equation. I think that there's just no way to really fake goodwill towards others. I think if you're going into something with a mindset and a heart set of service and really genuinely trying to help and lift the people around you, then people are going to feel that. So I think probably the integrity portion of it really pertains to the warmth pillar and really just having goodwill towards others. And I think that is, of course, something that we can cultivate. I think a lot of times, we're born with that too as well. And I do think that the other two pillars, the presence and the power, are things where a lot of us are not necessarily born with the tools
Right.
necessary to convey those qualities. So I think those two probably we need to work on a little bit more. But I think that the warmth pillar kind of right in the center, it is certainly based in integrity because there's just no way. I don't care what tactic I give you, speak a little slower, add pauses to your verbal
Mm,
exposition. You can use all those tips, but if you're not really there to help people, then people are going to pick up on that. And there's just no way to fake warmth, in my estimation.
Right. I absolutely 100% agree. So, what would you say to the people that are listening to this right now and their story is, I was born with no charisma. I don't have any charisma. I can't cultivate charisma. Everyone else is lucky. You attract because you're so, charismatic and I'm not. So I'm never going to achieve what I need and I just can't do it. What would you say to those people because they're out there?
For sure, definitely, and I think probably most people would not really consider themselves to be terribly charismatic. I think if you
Yeah.
asked 100 people on the street, do you consider yourself charismatic? I bet less than 50% would give you a resounding
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
And
I would say awkward. I'm not charismatic. I'm awkward, energetic, and like a puppy.
but the
I
truth
wouldn't say
is,
charismatic. I'm like, but I'm
right?
enthusiastic.
For sure. And maybe internally, you don't label yourself as charismatic, but you certainly have a presence and a charisma about you. And I think you definitely display the three pillars. I mean, power, warmth, and presence. I can tell you're with me in this moment. I can tell you're a person of power. And I can tell that you're here to actually help people. So, yes, you definitely check all the boxes, Dana. Even if you
I
don't
like it.
label yourself as charismatic, you got them. Check those charisma
I'd be
boxes. But
charismatic.
you be
So what?
charismatic.
Yeah.
So,
So
what
so
would I tell the people that don't check those boxes?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I would just try and explain to them that charisma, yes, it's three pillars, but within those three pillars, there are various skills, right? It is just a skill set, similar to learning how to shoot a basketball or how to shoot a hockey puck or play golf or really anything, speak a language. There is just a variety of skills that lead up to one presenting themselves to the world as charismatic. Those skills are eye contact and speaking with more vocal variety and, adding some downward inflection to the end of your statements and things like this. There's a variety of skills that go into that charismatic formula. And what I would say to them is you just have to start to devote yourself to learning and practicing these skills and, do it over the course of time. Don't expect to be as charismatic as Barack Obama next week. That's just not going to happen. You're not going to be Jimmy Fallon at the end of the month. But if you focus on practicing these skills that lead to a charismatic personality, then a year from now, you can be a totally different person in the way you show up to social gatherings.
Right. I just did an interview and I think it was at the New York Times. I can't remember, but I said if we're going to change our lives, we need to change our language about how we speak our existence into the world, essentially. So, how can, and I keep going back to the charismatic hacker, what are some hacks? Like instant things that they can do daily, repetitively, that they can build in to be more confident about their charisma because the pillars are important. And I think how could they support those pillars on a daily basis? And I love simple. I love simple. So how can they change like that language? So I say change your language, and you'll change your life. How can they change their charisma and support that to change those pillars? Like you said, in a year from now, they can have a whole completely different life.
Yeah, and 100%. And I think simple is certainly the best way to go when you're teaching anything. And especially in the early going, if someone's really never even tried to improve their communication skills or be more magnetic, I think, little simple tips in the early going are really going to help. And I would say, there's certainly a few things I'd advise, in the early going. And, I would say one of those things is eye contact. I think for the most part, it is very tough to display power to the world around you if you're not making a lot of eye contact. I think when you look at confident leaders, they just make more eye contact than the rest of us. There's really no way around it. They make more eye contact while they're speaking. They make more eye contact while they're listening. They make more eye contact with strangers while walking down the street. It's just not something that they shy away from. So I would say one little simple tip that they could maybe go into their next barbecue with is just focus on making a little bit more eye contact than they were previously comfortable with. And I think that there's a few ways to go about that. One, if you're a person that is terrified of eye contact, and we know those people and they make eye contact for a second and then they look away, I think those people need to start really small. I'm talking baby steps. And I don't even like to advise those people to really even go for eye contact, but instead look in between the eyes, top of the nose, right at the bridge. I think just get comfortable with looking at that portion of somebody's face. the person you're talking to is going to think you're making eye contact. They'll have no idea, but you're just kind of getting comfortable with looking near the eyes. And then after doing that for a couple barbecues, a couple parties, start to make more eye contact. And then the other thing with eye contact that I like to advise is if maybe you're a little bit more comfortable, right, with eye contact. You're not totally scared of it, but it's not like the sharpest tool in your tool belt.
Yeah.
Then I think there is an ideal ratio that we can shoot for. And it's called the 50-70 rule. And basically, it's pretty simple. When you are speaking, you'd like to be making eye contact with the people around you 50% of the time. So, eye contact, it's okay to look away from your audience for a little bit to kind of gather your thoughts and then get back to delivering your message with good eye contact. And then 70% of the time while you're listening is when you're making eye contact at that point. So make eye contact 50% of the time while speaking, 70% of the time while listening is just kind of like a very easy ratio to keep in your head when you're getting used to eye contact on a whole. So I think those two rules, look at the bridge of the nose if you're not comfortable at all. If you are kind of comfortable, then try and give that 50-70 ratio a spin at your next party. And I think you'll realize that people are just kind of reacting to you in a different way because you are displaying a lot more power with your communication.
I love that. I have so many questions on this because for someone to focus on charisma and I mean, focusing on communication is one thing, but what inspired you to home in on charisma?
I just think it is at the absolute core of anyone that has a mission in this world that they're passionate about. They've got a movement that they really want to see happen in their lifetime. It's almost impossible to push the ball forward, like really push the ball forward and make a tremendous impact in this world if you don't have charisma. I mean, it just is. I mean, if you're not displaying that power and that presence and that warmth, then people are just not going to want to be led by you. So I think that, this is really a message for people that want to make a tremendous impact. And I think that it's important to, of course, be great at what you're doing. And it's important to be delivering a great offer and a great product, whatever niche you're in. That, of course, is a huge part of making a great impact. But I think on the other side, your people skills also have to be elite. You have to be able to connect and move others in the way of your vision. And if you can really combine those two elements, have a great offer, have a great product, and then combine it with elite communication skills, charisma, and the ability to connect, then you can really move some mountains.
I love that. I think that I'm listening to the audience and then I can just hear people saying, but I wasn't born with it. How do I cultivate more? And how do I shift? And what about the act of comparison? Saying, well, I can never be as charismatic as XYZ. How could they own their own unique, charisma and cultivate that into something really? Because I always say there's only one of any one of us, and I always love the uniqueness. But how could they cultivate their own unique charisma without being it too formulated or saying I'm going to be like her because she's super successful and I'm going to put that blueprint over. So tell me more about that, how they can drop in and really and where do they find that charisma? What part of
Yeah.
their body, their solar play? I mean, does it live within here? Or are they going to have to Google it? Or hey, I need to be more charisma. Give me some. Tell me where that lives.
For sure.
Yeah.
I just think it lives within inside of us. I think we all have an ability to be charismatic, to move
Mhm.
others towards our vision, to connect with others, to make them feel our warmth. And I would say that, for sure, there is going to be different ways that we display our charisma, right? It's just because you're charismatic doesn't mean you're holding a microphone in front of 50,000 people cutting a promo like The Rock, That of course is like, to me, like The Rock is probably like the pinnacle of charisma. I don't know if anyone's ever really hit on all of those three pillars more than The Rock. I mean, that guy's powerful, he is present, and he actually has a warmth about him as well. So I think like he is kind of like he's on my charisma Mount Rushmore if I were to make one. But
Mm.
I think that there also is like we have people in our life also that maybe they like to listen a lot more than they speak. And maybe they're not, the one that's telling all the stories at the dinner table, but we still consider them charismatic. So I think there's different ways to kind of play this charisma instruments. And I think you just have to kind of assemble the tools necessary to bring that charisma to the surface. And those tools again are eye contact, and they're speaking with great tonality presence. I really think that presence is probably the pillar of charisma that probably gets the least attention. I think when I work with most people and I give talks, on the power of charisma, everyone wants to talk about power. How can we display more power, which I understand, especially the men in the room. That's what they always want to talk about first. And maybe the women are a little bit more interested in displaying the warmth, but no one ever really gives enough attention to presence. And to me, that is kind of the bedrock of what the charisma mansion is built on, because
Hmm.
you're never going to be powerful. You're never going to be able to show up powerfully within a moment if you're not completely present to that moment, right? You're not going to be truly nimble within a conversation if you're not present to that conversation. So I do think that the more
Mm.
that we work on that presence muscle, just really fully absorbing the interaction that's in front of us,
Mhm.
the more our innate charisma will come to the surface. And maybe that'll be something like The Rock. Maybe it'll be something a little bit more subdued. You've got your own natural formula of charisma. It's somewhere inside of you. The more that you really just commit to being fully present to the moment in your social interactions, I think the more that's going to come to the surface.
I like that. I like the fact that we're focusing on charisma. It's kind of a behind the scenes of energy, power. There's a lot of words that come, like you said, in front of it. They power up or they're doing different things, but it's all connected to I think, to the presence of connecting. And that is our charisma if we allow ourselves. Would I be right or wrong about that? We're allowing ourselves to be present and be authentic in that moment. And there's where our charisma will show up or where we can hide.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah. I think that, being present within the moment and, while someone's talking, do your absolute best to really just absorb their message. I think it's very easy for us when someone's speaking to us halfway through their sentence, we're already thinking about what we're going to say, or maybe we're thinking about, why our last Instagram reel only got 200 plays. We're thinking about something. We're not focusing on the person in front of us. And the
Yeah.
truth is, the person in front of us can feel that. Maybe
Yeah.
they can't exactly
Yeah.
label why they're not, engaged in this interaction, but the reason they're not is
Or
because
connecting. Yeah.
or connecting. Maybe they don't know. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
this isn't my type of person. But
Yeah.
the truth is, they'd feel a lot differently if you were
Yeah.
really tuned in
Yeah.
to their message. So I think there's a little hack to that too. I think, and I use
Yeah.
this a lot because we're human beings, and our
Yeah.
mind is going to wander sometimes. And when someone's talking to us, sometimes we're just going to start preparing our next statement. It's almost like we got bullets in the chamber. We're ready to fire these statements out to the world, and we're just waiting for the person in front of us to finish talking, which is not what we want to do. Like, that's not what a great listener does.
Yeah.
So whenever my mind starts chattering in the middle of someone else's message, when I know I should really just be focused on what they're delivering, I simply just say internally, I say two words. I say, just listen. I say that internally in my own head. And it's incredible what those two words can do to your focus. The second you say just listen,
I love
boom, it's like your focus is immediately right back on the person in front of you where it belongs.
I love that. I mean, out of everything we've discussed today, when you just said just listen, it hit me right in my heart chakra. I had to train myself to be an active listener after years of not listening and being in sales and not wanting to be interrupted because as a working for a lobbyist group, you didn't want any space or air. You just plowed through. So I
Right.
had to train myself to be an active listener. And then of course we've got the people that are over enthusiastic and the people that are anxious and shy and and ego driven. All of it is applicable to,
Mhm.
maybe I'll add, just do deep breath and just listen. I love leaving you on that note, but I have one more question for you.
Let's go.
This is this is heart centered conversations. And I believe charisma is heart centered because it helps us develop and connect on a deeper and a more authentic level. But I'm going to ask you, Brett, what feels like love to you, whether it be in your work life, in your home life? What has shifted you and moved you to a higher vibration in your life that can give us a little bit more insight on you? What feels like love?
It's a great question. I love that. I think that's a beautiful way to you know, to really sum things up. And to me, love, and I think it's kind of piggybacking on what we were just talking about. And I really just think love is giving the person in front of you your full attention, because I really do think that that's what we crave. We crave someone's full attention as much as we crave oxygen, water, food. I mean, we just want people to pay attention to us. And not only that, but honestly appreciate us. And I think that if we can just give the people in our lives, the people that we meet every day, maybe it's the barista, maybe it's our wife, maybe it's our son, whoever it is,
Yeah.
if we can just give more people our full uninterrupted attention. And then when they do something that impresses us or we think something positive about them, actually tell them we're changing the world. We are changing the world one person at a time. And to me, I think that's love.
On that note, you are the charisma hacker, and I love that you connected it so deeply and so authentically and so just so much truth in that. A lot of people don't want to say, "Hey, we need to be seen. We need to be heard. This is what lights us up. We're not meant to be here alone." And I love that answer, Brett. Brett McDermott, I love spending time with you. I mean,
Same
I've
here.
got to spend 2 interviews with you this month. So
I
tell
love
us,
it.
how can people find you? Tell us, where they can connect. What are you up to? Give us the deets on that.
Yeah, 100%. So I think the best place to find me is my podcast, Persistence Playbook. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Persistence Playbook is there. And then beyond that is my Instagram at the Brett McDermott, where I'm posting daily charisma hacks, communication skills. And yeah, I'd say if you want to find me, those are the two places where you're going to do so.
Excellent. Well, everyone go follow Brett and give him some love and give him some feedback on and interact with this. I love your conversations that you start and that you have. It's, you're on my radar. I think that you have a unique and authentic way of communicating. I love your podcast. Thank you for having me on. And people can actually listen to me on, I don't know what episode it was, but it was in the last month. And
Yeah.
so go over there, give him a follow, give him some love. And I can't wait to see what you're up to next. Thank you for joining us today on the Dana Grant Show. All these heart centered stories.
Thanks, Dana.